Hey, Coach Mike here. Have you ever hired someone who you liked a lot in the interview? They seemed like they were going to work out really great, do great work for you, only to be disappointed by their pace, motivation level, work ethic, or even their follow through? Well, unfortunately, you're not alone, but stay tuned because I'm going to be sharing three specific questions that you can ask during the interview process that'll help you identify and verify work ethic, motivation, and follow through before you hire. So hopefully you're excited about that. It really helps out a lot. All right, so hiring what I call low motor people can have a really big impact on your business, right? And if you run a business that's, I don't know, 20 or 30 employees or less, it impacts even more. It's even more important that you only hire people who have a really strong internal drive, they have motivation to excel, and it's especially true in trade and service businesses. And the reason that's the case is because that's where you earn the majority of your sales and your profits based on the quality and the productivity of that frontline team of yours, right? And let's face it, just one unproductive service person or technician can really eat into the profit of several good technicians day after day after day. And that can be the difference between a business making money or losing money. So here's the good news. Fortunately, there are several things that you can do to identify drive, work ethic, and motivation in applicants. And today, I'm going to share with you three questions that you can ask that I've used over and over again to help you identify people, regardless of their role, who are internally motivated and don't have to be pushed every step of the way, every step, every day, right? So before we jump in, let me give you a little bit of context and a quick note. If getting quality applicants, like you're not getting enough quality applicants to hire great people, is also a challenge, this will help you. But there's actually another video that I do that would be an even better application for you. So just shoot a note to me and we'll work out getting you access to that video. Well, let's jump in. So this approach works because it's really normal to ask people about their background in the early in the interview, right? So I do want to ask one little or provide one little piece of a disclaimer. I wouldn't ask these three questions in the very beginning of the interview, but do your normal icebreakers, do some small talk, whatever you'd normally do to put someone at ease, build a little bit of trust, and then you're good to go. You can jump right into these questions. So here's exactly what I would say to the applicant. First question. Before we jump into talking about this role, I'd like to learn about a little bit more about you. Is that okay? Of course, they'll say that's okay, right? So tell me a little bit about you before you entered the workforce or before you started working. No pause here, and then roll right into, tell me about one or two of the goals that you remember having that you worked toward, before you really started your career. It could be a goal that you had for school, sports, learning a skill, anything else that was important to you, personal or business. And if you need a minute to think about that, that's just fine. So give them some time to think about it. If they seem to be struggling, you can add an example. So if somebody's struggling to come up with an example, I'll share one of mine, which was making the soccer team when I was in high school. I ran 5 days a week, all winter into the spring, so that I'd be in good enough shape for tryouts in the early summer. That was one of mine. It was a goal that I set, was to make the soccer team. The workouts were the effort that I put forward, and strangely enough, I made the team. After they share with you their goals and what they did to achieve them, ask them why the goal was important to them and also what they learned about themselves in the process. It's going to have some valuable information. And in case some of you were wondering, let me tell you a little bit about why this particular question is so important and why you want to ask it every time. The first thing is, you want to see if the person has made the connection between the things that you want in life and actions needing to be taken in order to get some of the more important things that you want in life. That's the big reason. So do they realize that effort is what it takes to get results that you want? Number two, we want to know if they were self-motivated at an early age to achieve their goal, which they might say, well, I wanted to accomplish X, or I wanted to get Z, or whether their goal and their achievements were a result of, well, my dad told me that I had to, or some other authority figure told them that they had to do whatever the goal was. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's better if somebody's intrinsically motivated, right? Third thing we want to look at is, did they struggle to come up with early goals and actions and achievements? If they did, it's okay at this point because they were young. So just move to the next question. Maybe their achievements came a little bit later in life, right? So here's the second question I like to ask, and it's a whole lot like the first, but there's a specific reason for this specific question in the way that I ask it, and I'll explain in a minute. So I'd like to ask a similar question about you and some of your goals now. Instead of before your career started, let's talk about early in your career. So maybe you could share one or two goals that you set, what you did to achieve them, why they were important to you, and maybe what you learned about yourself in the process. And again, we're looking for the same formula: goal, action, results. When they share their story with you, thank them. Thank them for sharing, and make sure you do find out why the goal was important and if they learned something about themselves in the process. Here's why you want to make sure you ask this specific question. As most of us know, goals get a little bit harder to achieve once life gets a little bit more complicated, right? We're asking this specific question to see if they survive that delicate transition from teen or early adult to real adulting. At this point in life, they might also have been on their own. Or with that being the case, internal and external motivators can be equally valid, right? So if someone shares, I was doing this goal for me, that's great. But if somebody says, look, I had bills to pay, food, shelter, wanted to buy a house, whatever, those are fine. So external goals, not so great early in life, much more valid later in life. Third question I like to ask everybody. You can see same model as before. Now we want to measure their recent and current level of drive, right? Because the world is full of people who start really well and then life gets tough and they kind of pack it in. And we want to make sure that doesn't happen. So it might go like this. Okay, great answers so far. I appreciate you sharing those things with me. There's one more thing I'd like to ask you with regard to goals. Tell me now more about some of the goals you've had very recently, the last few years. And then tell me a couple of goals that you have now that you'd like to work on over the next couple of years. And again, same formula. Tell me what the goal was, why it was important, what you did about achieving that goal, what you learned along the way. And then we'll talk about the same for present and the future. Does that sound good? And they'll say, sure. So again, give them a little bit of time. Make sure you let them know that it's okay if their goals are personal or business. Again, we're just trying to figure out if this person has made and then keeps the connection between, if I want something, I got to do something to make those things happen, right? Again, why is this important? You want to look out for people who are sharing wishes with you, all the things they wish that they could get or pined about. Was there an action, right? Because wishes aren't the same as goals. Goals have an action plan and they have effort. Wishes they really require not a whole lot of effort. So if you find someone wishing a lot, dig a little deeper. And if there's no meat behind their plan or actions that they took, you might ask them to come up with another example. But if they don't, this might not be the person for you. This might be somebody who just coasts through life. Another thing I mentioned a little earlier is that sometimes life is really hard and it burns people out. You want to find out if that pilot light is still on, if that fire is still burning, most recently, and then for something in the future. What I will tell you is that with these three questions, if someone doesn't show at least by middle in their career and recently that they have goals, that they're taking action to achieve things, or at least make the effort to achieve things, I won't hire them. I don't know a position in any company that I've run or any company that I've owned where I would want someone on my team that wasn't chasing something that stretched them to another level, right? If you don't do this, what you end up with are people who you've got to micromanage. They'll do just enough not to get fired, and you're probably going to find yourself real frustrated with them. Okay, so those are the three questions that I've identified and shared with you that can help you identify people who are motivated and have goals, and they're pushing for things. So they have a big why, and that's really important. Now, keep in mind, that's just motivation and heart. This doesn't address the skill piece. Let's say, though, that you're a business owner who not only are you having a difficult time finding people who have heart and motivation and drive, but you're interested in finding people who have the right skills. Or, this is a big one, your interview process takes way too long. You just can't believe how long it takes to sift through candidates, make phone calls, or somebody on your team make phone calls, and then all the time spent hiring. I've figured out a process that will cut the time that it takes to identify, hire, and offer a candidate by about 70% on average, and you'll get higher quality candidates. If that's something that you'd like to learn about, all you got to do is reach out to me. There's notes, email, the way to get on my calendar in the notes below this video. And I just recommend that if that's something you'd like to improve in your business, or you'd like to know more about what I've just shared with you, those 3 questions, I'll share the transcript with you. I'll set some time on my calendar. There's no obligation. There's nothing to buy. I'm just a business owner who's had some success. I've coached other people to success, and I'd like to share it with other people. So if any of that sounds great to you, just click the calendar link below, reach out to me. That's all I got for today. Go be as good as you are, and then be even better. Coach Mike signing out. Have a great day.